What if one man held the documents that could expose decades of government lies? What if the most powerful leaders in America tried to silence him, but the truth still broke free? This is the story of the Pentagon Papers, the leak that shook Washington and changed how Americans viewed their own government. In 1971, America was deep in the Vietnam War. Thousands of lives lost, billions of dollars spent, and faith in victory growing weaker by the day. Publicly, U.S. leaders promised progress. Behind closed doors, they knew a different story, one the public wasn't supposed to hear. That story begins with Daniel Ellsberg. He wasn't an outsider or a rebel. Born in Chicago in 1931, Ellsberg graduated from Harvard, served as a U.S. Marine, and later became a military analyst for the Pentagon and the Rand Corporation. He was trusted by the establishment. But as he studied secret documents about Vietnam, Ellsberg saw a disturbing pattern: public optimism from presidents and generals, private doubts in their own memos, secret bombings in Cambodia and Laos, reports of failure while speeches promised victory. Ellsberg realized the government had been misleading the American people for years. The classified study he had access to was massive. Ordered by Defense Secretary Robert McNamara in 1967, it was 7,000 pages long, documenting U.S. involvement in Vietnam from 1945 to 1967. It revealed that 4 presidents, Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Johnson, had expanded the war while hiding the real costs and ignoring chances for peace. It showed secret military actions Congress and the public were never told about. It proved that leaders knew the war was unlikely to succeed long before they admitted it. Ellsberg made a decision that would change his life forever. In 1969, with the help of his friend Anthony Russo, he began secretly copying the entire study. He believed Americans had the right to know the truth. 2 years later, in June 1971, he leaked the documents to the New York Times. When the first articles hit the front page, the reaction was explosive. The Nixon administration panicked. They called it a threat to national security. The Justice Department got a court order to stop the New York Times from publishing more. It was the first time in American history the federal government tried to use prior restraint, censorship before publication on a major newspaper. But the press fought back. The Washington Post and other newspapers published their own excerpts. The battle went to the Supreme Court. In a landmark 6-3 decision, the court ruled the government had no right to stop the press. The First Amendment stood firm. The Pentagon Papers were now public. Daniel Ellsberg wasn't safe yet. He was charged under the Espionage Act, facing up to 115 years in prison. But during the trial, it came out that Nixon's team had broken into Ellsberg's psychiatrist's office to find dirt on him. They even discussed plans to silence him illegally. Because of this misconduct, all charges were dismissed in 1973. By then, the damage to the government's credibility was done. The Pentagon Papers proved that leaders had lied about the Vietnam War for years. Public trust collapsed. Support for the war crumbled. The leak helped fuel the anti-war movement and added to the growing crisis of confidence in Washington that would later explode with the Watergate scandal. The Pentagon hated the leak because it exposed the truth. They knew the war was unwinnable but kept sending soldiers anyway. It showed secret bombings, misinformation to Congress, and decision-making driven by fear of losing face rather than honesty with the public. The documents turned what many Americans suspected into undeniable proof.
The legacy of the Pentagon Papers didn't end in the 1970s. They set the stage for future whistleblowers like Edward Snowden and Chelsea Manning, who revealed secret programs and wars in later decades. Ellsberg himself became a lifelong advocate for transparency and nuclear disarmament, writing books like Secrets, a memoir of Vietnam and the Pentagon Papers, and The Doomsday Machine. Daniel Ellsberg passed away in June 2023 at the age of 92. To the end, he believed that democracy depends on an informed public, and that sometimes telling the truth means risking everything. The Pentagon Papers weren't just a leak, they were a turning point. They showed the power of information, the courage of one man against the most powerful government in the world, and the cost of secrecy in a democracy. For more untold stories and hidden history, subscribe to Knowledge is Power, because knowledge truly is power.